You want to support Roland Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible.
I want to play for our folks. Again, I love all these conservatives who say, oh, no, you shouldn't hold Donald Trump for these things. You shouldn't do any of these. Folks, this is a video of Donald Trump at his own rallies in his own words.
Been boom, 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 I'll beat that.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing. If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, you know, they would not do it again so easily. We've become weak. We've become weak.
And you know what? The audience swung back. And I thought it was very, very appropriate. The audience hit back. And that's what we need a little bit more of now.
Part of the problem and part of the reason it takes so long is nobody wants to hurt each other anymore, right?
Honey, we've got to call this what it is. And what it is white folks in America. You can sprinkle in some black folks. You could talk about 20, 25% of Latinos. But white folks in America, they got to own this. They voted for this man. They voted for this thug. They voted for this rhetoric. And when he attacks immigrants, when he attacks people of color who come into this country, what he is saying is, I want to see white people in America. And he is throwing red meat. And you got a whole generation now of young white men listening to Donald Trump saying, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. He's saying what I want to hear. That's what's going on here.
Donald Trump cares more about votes than he cares about lives. He has blood on his hands at this particular time. And what he needs to say is that this is white supremacy, there's a danger happening, and that our country needs to come together. And what is so funny is in the video that you showed earlier, he couldn't even remember the events where they took place. Oh, it's Toledo. His tone is very different when he's talking about, for when he's riling up his base. He's energetic, he's enthusiastic. But when tragedies happen, it's not even the same person. So what we need to say is, you know, Mr. President, you're doing a disservice to all of us. And you are, quite frankly, dangerous. And then that you're also riling up this youth, and we need to figure out what we really need to do right now.
Well, the reality is he knows that his hateful speech is resonating among white voters. And that's why he is going to continue it, and that's why our responsibility has to, and the only way we can respond to this is to operate by saying we're going to throw this man out of office. And Avis, we're at an inflection point. I am no longer interested in these bullshit journalists on mainstream media giving this man a pass. I am sick of this talk of he sounded presidential. I am sick of these people who are happy with the entertainment that he's delivering. I'm tired of it. And that somebody has to call these people into account. Somebody has to say, enough of this. You have these idiots on Fox News defending every single move because that network is built to appeal to the fear of white voters. And what you're dealing with are these older white voters, and I will pound the table consistently that this is white fear, that everything about what's happening today is about 2043. And Avis, I need people to stop acting as if it's going to go away if Trump is gone. Joe Biden, it is not.
Oh my God.
This
So
is
true.
going to be with us from now until who knows when, because white people in America simply cannot handle not having power. History shows you they were fearful of black people after the Civil War. They were fearful of black people after World War I. They were fearful of black people after World War II. Everything, lynchings were about black folks getting too much economic power. That's what the right to vote at every juncture in America. When they tried to stop it, it was because how they get power. Buckle up, black people. Buckle up, Latinos. Buckle up, immigrants. We are in a place where America was about creating a white nation, and people cannot handle that. So you better get used to more of this. I hate to say that, but trust me, this is not going to be the last mass shooting where people of color are being targeted by white male domestic terrorists. Avis.
Absolutely. What we're witnessing right now is fascism in real time. It's not so much that they're afraid of black people in terms of we're something to be fearful of. It's they're afraid of losing the unearned advantage of whiteness once they become a minority in this population. They're afraid of having to actually compete based on a level playing field, or more level playing field. They're afraid because they know that unless a thumb is on the scale in their favor, they might not be as good, and in many circumstances, they aren't as good. And so they want to continue to have that unfair advantage that they have had from day one in this country for centuries moving forward. And they will do anything in order to protect that unearned advantage, including embracing authoritarianism, including embracing fascism, including embracing violence, and including embracing someone who clearly personifies each and every one of those attributes.
Erica, I'm saying this because I need us to be prepared. I'm not calling this a race war, but I have to let people know that this is the 100th anniversary of the disastrous, fatal riots in Chicago. What we are seeing is the same thing. And I'm telling you, if Trump keeps talking about invasion, 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 what he's essentially doing is saying, white people, watch out, beware, here they come, take cover.
Right.
But these people are armed, they are malicious, they are in our police departments, they are in the United States military, and we better pay attention, and it's time for the FBI to get serious about this. You heard Congressman Benny Thompson say there's going to be hearings next week. We had better understand what is going on here. White folks are going to use the barrel of a gun to hold on to power, Erica.
Oh, absolutely. And so second amenders are coming out fast, heavy, and strong. It was interesting. I was reading a piece very recently where there was a white journalist that talked about how he'd actually been trying to put together a piece and have it published around concerns about militia groups that we've heard of in Montana and Oregon and things of that nature. So here's the story. When, those people that were in those camps that, said that, of course we know that racism isn't dead, but that we're in this post-racial society, all of those individuals that really worked very hard to mute the concerns that Dr. Avis raised, the very real things that are happening. You brought up the Red Summer that happened in Chicago in 1919. You also have, this is the 400th year commemorating an enslaved African being brought to this nation. There is a lot that's happening this year. So I'm 100% in with you, Roland, that this is what needs to happen. People need to make their focus not about the reality show that is happening, that we were very, very adamant that we knew it was going to happen when he actually got in office, because it was walking and talking, but also understand what their power is, understanding what it means for them to understand the laws around their person, their property. This is not the time to be passing around sound bites saying that, well, people are going to do what they want to do anyway. This is the time to be purposefully engaged, and not just a political process saying that you're either Democrat, Republican, Green Party, Libertarian, or that you're an independent, but to understand what your rights are, to understand what governs this nation, and to also understand that you mentioned all those different places that we see white supremacists holding court. Well, we also see it around the Department of Justice with William Barr. So folks need to be very, very learned in this hour. They need to invest in programming such as this, because what we're seeing right now is not the manifestation of just a Trump presidency. What we're seeing is the manifestation of a consolidation of white power, that when we saw the exodus of white Southerners from the Democratic Party, that was not just a sign, but that was just kind of like letting folks know of things to come.
Honey, you had this idiot Candace Owens who testified before Congress saying, oh, the left, they just use these terms, white nationalism, white supremacy, those things don't exist.
Of course they...
Exhibit A, El Paso. Exhibit B, Dayton, Ohio.
Of course, that is the fabric of this country. White nationalism, white supremacy, and I just don't understand how people don't understand what is going on and why we haven't found solutions yet. When I was going to work today, I noticed that all of the flags were half-staffed. This country cares more about symbolism than they do about solutions. So let us have a solution. What are the solutions? Congress needs to get involved, but people care, again, more about votes than they care about lives. And that needs to stop. And we need to be firm about this and say white nationalism exists, white supremacy exists, and it's dangerous. And we, Roland, we are in a race war. There have been a lot of studies with even the ADL said that there is a race war happening in our country. Just because, war, I know what war is about. Just because you don't see drones, just because you don't see military armor, war could be also words. That is how most wars are started, with words, and that is what the president is doing.
All right, folks, Vice President Joe Biden made some comments today that had all folks on social media talking when he was discussing in Iowa education and talking about poor kids and white kids. Press play.
And the other thing we should do is we should challenge these students. We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. No, I really mean it, but think how we think about it.
All right, Robert, folks said, oh, my God, this is a gaffe. What was he doing? But here's the reality, Robert, that we have to acknowledge. The news media has played a critical role in framing this thing that when you talk about poor, that means black. So not just when it comes to, not just comes to education, but anything. The reality is there are more poor white people in America because there are more white people in America. But what has happened is when you talk about poor, I guarantee you, if you do the study, if somebody says, what's the first thought that comes to your mind when you say poor, they are going to think black. So it's no surprise when Joe Biden made that comment, because that's exactly how America thinks, because we have been framed to think when you think poor, you mean black.
Well, I think also the media is really trying to help reelect Trump. Because if, on the same day that we're talking about 600 migrants getting deported and taken away from their children, we got blood still on the streets in Dayton and in El Paso. We're still getting over the ship them back controversy. We're still getting over the Birmingham controversy. Joe Biden immediately corrected himself within 2 words, where he said white and then he said wealthy because he meant to say wealthy. And now this is the thing dominating the headlines today. If we do not understand what we are up against, that since the year 1900, only 4 elected presidents have not been reelected. If we're going to turn every slip of the tongue by a 70-something-year-old man into a new racist controversy, y'all going to have 4 more years of Trump, 8 more years of Pence, then 4 years of Ivanka, then 8 years of Don Jr., and then Eric, and then the apocalypse will be here. So either we're going to have a realistic idea of the way that people speak in crowds, or we're going to turn this into the newest racist controversy.
Lauren, that's what's really stupid about this, because again, if the media had any credibility, if they had any sense whatsoever, they would say, wait a minute, how could that happen? And it is because in this nation, it has been framed, when you say poor, it means black.
Yeah, well, you know, here it is. I mean, Joe Biden is 76 years old. He's been in politics for 46 years. It is no shock to me that he just used African Americans interchangeably with poverty. I mean, this is like not surprising. And we're going to see more of this, because to me, Joe Biden is in a lot of ways sort of the second coming of Hillary Clinton in terms of being one of these candidates who on paper has the goods, but their electoral history would indicate that there's a reason why they haven't won on a nationwide level. Now, Joe Biden has run before and has had problems before, and there's no reason to think that's not going to happen again. He's got other competition in the race that, frankly, to me, is smarter and quicker than he is, even though these people are not that much younger than he is. Like, you know, Senator Warren is not that much younger, but she's still smarter and quicker and savvier than Joe Biden is. And we're going to see more of that. And to Robert's point, yeah, I mean, you can't make it easy, okay? All right? I mean, I get that the media is not the best at covering these things. The media has never been particularly good at covering racial topics. But you can't just hand them stuff. And what the RNC is very good at, and conservatives and Republican Party are very good at, is messaging. So the minute he said that, they got that out there, and they got everybody thinking about it, and they got it trending on Twitter, and so now we're all talking about it. So whose fault is that other than Joe Biden? He's got to be more careful about what he says. And he's not particularly, that's not something that is his strong suit. And I have a feeling we're going to be having this conversation again. And quite frankly, you know, hate to admit it, but Donald Trump is good at messaging. He's good at comms. He doesn't fool around. He goes right for the jugular. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants to get out there. He knows how to fill the box and fill the cycle with his messaging. So everybody who's running against him has got to understand that every time something happens. And unfortunately, to me, in this field of Democrats, Biden is not the strongest player when it comes to that.
Johanna, bottom line is that I do believe media goes overkill on some of these stories. True. He did immediately correct himself, so it's not like he left it there and then had sent a press release out later.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with my co-panelist, Robert, here on this issue. I think that the media is very strategic. The media knows what people want to hear, right? And people who are not paying attention, people who don't get a chance to read the full story or the full article, will immediately go to the notion that, oh, you know, Senator Biden said, you know, black people are poor, something of that effect. So if people who are critical thinkers will think a bit deeper into it, but I think the media is doing a really good job in terms of trying to get Donald Trump reelected. And I think if we're looking for a perfect candidate, we're never going to find one. So good luck with that. He is going to make mistakes. He is going to say things that may not sound perfect when it's taken out of context. But we have to realize that if the Democratic Party wants a nominee, we need to be less divisive and less critical.
Just to hop in real quick, I need the news media to stop being so transparent and trying to turn Elizabeth Warren into a thing. Elizabeth Warren isn't a thing. She's polling at 12% nationally. I've never seen an Elizabeth Warren bumper sticker. But hold on. Every single debate, there was a debate where Tulsi Gabbard won. They said Elizabeth Warren won. Every single new MSNBC, CNN, they're trying to turn Elizabeth Warren into like the new trend, into the new thing, into Coke Zero. But nobody's actually out here calling for it, and that's why they're cannibalizing. They're doing exactly what President Obama said not to do, which is to form a circular firing squad, trying to make Elizabeth Warren into a thing when the people aren't calling for her as a thing.
Warren is polling at #2 in the polls right now, and she is surging in the polls right now. And it's not a matter of turning anybody to a thing. There is a reason we have primaries, okay? And there's a reason why the Democratic Party flopped last time by just having Hillary Clinton and anointing her the candidate and deciding that she was going to be it. That was a mistake. The way you find the best person is you have competition. And so there are going to be moments when everybody says, wow, you know, we're criticizing the front runner and that's not a good thing. But that's why you do this, because you do end up, in my view, you do end up with the best person.
Not only you're criticizing the front runner, it's just the notion that, we're not getting the full story and we're being critical. And it seems like we are looking for a perfect candidate, and that's not going to happen. So we need to wake up and understand that there is no such thing and accept candidates, how they are, because we know we have Biden's track record. He was the vice president to President Barack Obama, and some of the policies under the Obama administration were not that bad. So I think that he's a good contender, and we need to stop this notion of a perfect candidate.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, you've heard me talk a lot about marijuanastock.org. Why? Because I want to keep you informed of investment opportunities that make sense. We've all watched the growth of the cannabis industry. A recent report by New Frontier Data estimates the global cannabis market at more than $340 billion. We know that marijuana legalization is sweeping the country state by state. We also know that marijuana has a good cousin, the hemp plant, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all of the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the United States and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. Folks, they need land to grow all of the plants. This is not rocket science. It's real simple. It's an incredible investment opportunity, and that's where our friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. My friends at 420 Real Estate decided to do something special for the Roland Martin Unfiltered fan base. Originally, the minimum investment level was $500. Right now, you can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, anywhere from $200 up to $10,000. Let me recap. This is a $340 billion industry that is still growing. You can participate with as little as $200. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game, and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible.
What's interesting to me in terms of what we've witnessed in the last couple of days, what we are seeing here is really, I think, the greatest contrast between two political parties. On one hand, you have a Republican Party that will do nothing when it comes to guns, when it comes to gun violence. They have prevented the federal government from even compiling stats on gun violence. Being the Democratic Party who understands you must be able to do something. And I love these people, Avis, and I'm being very facetious, who say, oh, well, a background check will do nothing. Eliminating these guns will do nothing. Changing the size of magazines will do nothing. Well, damn it, you can do, if it saves one life, it sure as hell is worth it.
Absolutely. And I, obviously the lowest hanging fruit is around the background check, since there's already been a bill that's been passed out of the House. But I would certainly love to see the Democrats show a bit more courage here and swing for the fences. Let's just be very real about this. The fact that you have people who are able to get weapons that could really only belong on the battlefield, where someone could literally murder 9 people and injure 20 people in less than 30 seconds. In less than 30 seconds, no civilian should have access to this type of weaponry. We need to look at how we can ban these types of assault rifles that do not belong in the hands of actual civilians. Yes, the minimal thing that we could do would be the background checks, but for these 2 specific incidents, those 2 individuals would have passed the background check because they did not have any felonies. We need to take the instrument of death out of their hands that do not belong anywhere except for on a battlefield.
Anna, again, I think when you look at where we are, and when you look at a party that just is clueless. In fact, I had retweeted this earlier. A Republican in Nebraska, a state lawmaker, he basically eviscerated his own party for their cowardice, for their lack of courage when it comes to gun violence. And I guess we should have known after Sandy Hook, if little kids could be slaughtered and they still do nothing, they don't care because they are deathly afraid of the NRA.
Exactly. That's their votes and their money. That is what matters to the Republican Party, not the lives. If we're in a country where kids can get slaughtered, where a congresswoman can almost be killed, and nothing changes, what does that say about this party? And they care so much about lives, and they're pro-choice, pro-life, but yet they really do not care about the lives that matter currently right now and what's happening. So what we need to say is to the Republican Party, what do you really care about? Do you care about votes? Do you care about money? Or do you care about the lives of people?
And look, Erica, this is what I want to know. When the hell these white folks who support the Republicans are going to just stand the hell up? In my interview with Congressman Benny Thompson, he says we got to go to the streets. The kids in Parkland went to the streets. Mm-hmm. Black mothers and black fathers have gone to the streets. Oh, yeah. Okay? The problem are these white folks who continue to vote for Republicans who say nothing. Yep. And who do nothing.
Right. Right. And what really needs to be teased out is what does it mean to be a Republican? I don't know why there's just a clamoring to that uniform. But here's the other piece, Roland, that I'm just going to continue to really hammer on this show, much of the same way that you're hammering out that, listen, we are really in a crisis, is that there has got to be a public outcry because just as you've laid out, there's not been a response from the party of Lincoln, from the party, that supposedly freed the slaves, from the party that is about family values. I'm old enough to remember when they were the party of family values. So since that's clearly not the case and that some people are waking up at today years old and discovering that, I'm saying again, the onus is really back on the audience, on the public. What are you going to do? These individuals who, as Kimberly Ellis stated, elected, their job is to serve the public. When you look at an organizational chart of your city, at the top of that organizational chart is not the mayor of that city who oversees different departments. It is the residents. So again, I implore, especially for folks that are living in districts that are held by Republicans, if you are not affiliated with a party, you're a Democrat, whatever the case is, it is now up to you to put the pressure on that particular congressional legislator to let them know that, listen, you're not having it because no one knows the day, the hour, when it will be them. And it does not matter what your area code is. It doesn't matter what your zip code is. It does not matter what type of job you go to every day. That there has been a warrant that has been put out on black and brown folks. And there are people who may not even have a background of violence that will respond to the message that is a Trump Republican message. I'm saying that we have to now demand our legislators to do the right thing, which we are saying, as Dr. Avis has pointed out, is definitely to have much more heavier legislation, because as a veteran who did serve this country, I did not see battle or combat, but I am telling you that military grade style weapons do not belong on the civilian streets at all.
Simple as that. So again, folks, it's about, again, having some courage to stand up. Let me do this here. Shannon Watts, of course, she is founder of Moms Demand, the grassroots organization. This is what she tweeted. The House of Representatives passed a bill to require background checks on all gun sales. Now the Senate must act. So do this here, folks. Text checks, C-H-E-C-K-S. Text checks, C-H-E-C-K-S, to 64433. That's 64433, to be connected with your senators to tell them to act on background checks. Moscow Mitch has refused to bring this bill to the full floor. Folks, this is a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. So text the word C-H-E-C-K-S to 64433.
What we are dealing with right now, and I want to bring in Teresa Lundy, who joins us as well. What we're dealing with right now, Teresa, is a moment that people have to make a decision. No longer are we going to allow white folks on media to play this game. Teresa, you've got Tucker Carlson on Fox News saying, oh, there are white supremacists in America could only fill up a football stadium. Really? Not based upon the FBI data we're talking about. To see this dismissal of white supremacy means individuals who are caping for them, and we cannot allow folks like Tucker Carlson, any of these people, to play games, because they are inciting a generation of white folks who are angry about the changing demographics in America. That is a reality, Teresa.
And that is a reality that is hurting many Americans. And so when I heard the statement about what Tucker Carlson said, I was not only disturbed, but I was also disappointed, because I thought we should have done more as a community, a black community, to actually say something and stand out a little more. So some of those leaders who were marching with Martin back in the day, who are still alive today, there was no word. There was no information that was given from the black organizations. There was no loud reference point from local leaders or some of those who are elected who are African Americans. So for that portion, I felt like there was a disservice that was done, and everybody just kind of got on Twitter and said what they had to under a comment. But there has to be more actions that needs to be taken. As it relates to Trump and how he's empowering his base, I believe this time around he is actually running a full-blown campaign. Last campaign, when he first ran, even when the results came in, him and his entire team looked shocked. He ran on messaging and he ran on emotion. And so those two pieces, actually tapped into a white America that was uneasy about minorities, from all different races. And now, so that when we see this uproar and we see this rising of hatred and this white nationalism and this term of, what does white nationalism really mean? It has woke up the entire economy about what we actually need to do to pretty much move the country forward. And what does forward actually look like in the eyes of all Americans? So I think, as we talk about what that plan looks like, NABJ did okay today. I don't think they did great, but I think they did okay as it relates to figuring out the souls of the candidates, but not about the policy. And that's what we need to talk about as we talk about what forward looks like in order to change lives, families, and communities.
Tim Wise, last comment to you before I go to a break. The reality is, and I'm going to keep saying it, what we cannot do is allow folks like Tucker Carlson, who has millions watching him. Fox News is allowing, literally, a host on a cable network to openly say white supremacy is no big deal. I keep telling people, we have been seeing this thing build up, and it's becoming reality. And I keep telling black folks, and I've been warning folks since 2009, this is white fear. white fear of 2043, of changing demographics, and trying to hold onto power as much as possible. Final thought, Tim Wise.
Look, this is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash. The question, even though that white rage may be inevitable, the question is, how do we respond in this moment? Do we go backward or forward? That's the question.
Tim Wise, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I do believe this issue of white nationalism is not going away. The fact that Donald Trump continues to appeal to that audience, I think what it is going to do, it is going to force white voters, white suburban voters, white educated voters, white women to have to make a choice. Are you going to pick a racist candidate over your taxes, or are you going to say, my pocketbook is more important than his racism? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's speaking to the soul and the spirit of what this country is supposed to be and who it is. It's putting a mirror up to the country and saying you have to make a decision. Are you going to support white nationalism? Are you going to support white supremacy with your vote? Or are you going to stand and be a part of a new 21st century country that says that these old ways, these antiquated ways of looking at others, of the way that the country has been structured, can no longer be in place? So folks are going to have to make a decision about who they are, who this country is, in the direction that they want it to go.
CJ, it is a challenge for the Republican Party because you have folks like Congressman Will Hurd, who announced he's not running for re-election, who blasted Donald Trump for his racist comments. It has led to others to do the same. Of course, many Republicans in Washington, D.C. are standing with Trump, but it clearly is problematic for Republicans because the last thing you really, really want is to have an open dialogue about racism in America tied to the presidential candidate for the Republicans, Donald Trump.
Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me. But again, when we're talking about white nationalism, we're not also talking about Antifa. In fact, the gentleman was a Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren supporter in Dayton. We're not talking about.
CJ,
wait a minute, allow me to finish.
And been confirmed.
Yes, it has been confirmed based on his social media platforms. And again, we're not talking about the 51 black folks between Baltimore and Chicago that got shot the same weekend.
CJ, I'm going to let you finish. No, CJ, I'm going to let you finish. But let me state the facts. Authorities in Dayton have not established what you just said. That is not true. That has not been established by law enforcement.
Sources,
no, it hasn't.
Which the media always use unnamed sources. Based on the unnamed sources,
CJ,
that's what they have.
No,
and
CJ,
CNN has had it on
on
theirs.
this show. CJ, first of all, this ain't CNN. We do not do scuttlebutt. We do not do that.
I ain't
so what
doing
you're saying
I'm
is
dealing
not
with what
confirmed.
they put out there is
now,
fact.
Now, here's the deal. You can cite them, but I'm telling our audience that has not been confirmed by law enforcement authorities. Now finish your point.
And again, as sources have said, they were Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren supporters.
Okay, hold on. Okay, fine. You want to go there?
And
what sources? Now, hold on. What sources?
They
what
said
sources?
unnamed
you just said
sources.
Said what sources?
Unnamed
okay, who
sources.
Unnamed sources? Who's they?
Unnamed
who's
sources
they?
from law enforcement.
Who's they?
Unnamed
who's
sources
they?
from law enforcement.
Right, but you're citing unnamed sources, and you're saying
don't you all cite
you can't
unnamed
specify
sources
who they
all the
are.
time in the media when you want to attack Trump?
No, hold up. No. What we don't do is I don't do the media. I am the media, so I cite what I know. And so you're repeating somebody else's stuff. And what I'm saying on this show, when you do, I'm going to call you out. Finish your point.
I did finish my point. Next.
Mustafa, here's the reality. The reality is Donald Trump won by 77,000 votes in 2016. He is underwater in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. You have suburban voters, suburban white voters, who did not vote for the Republican Party in the 2018 midterms. An open conversation about racism, about white nationalism, about white supremacy. Having the manifesto of the shooter in El Paso use the same language that Donald Trump has used, that is not smart politics. Now, Trump may be appealing to his hardcore base, but it's going to put people on the spot to say, you got to pick. You got to pick a racist, or you got to pick your pocketbook.
Without a doubt. I mean, Trump, it's very clear. I mean, the facts are there that he has created an atmosphere of hate. And he thought that that was a formula to be able to motivate folks to support his agenda, to be able to move forward and galvanize folks. And it's actually a losing proposition. You know, folks know what time it really is.
I want to go to anti-racist educator Tim Wise. Tim, are you there? Is Tim Wise there?
Can you hear me?
Tim, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, Tim, I got you. So I certainly want to get your thoughts on this, Tim, because to have not only the candidates dealing with this here, now you have the press dealing with it. Now you've got Tucker Carlson on Fox News literally saying white nationalism, white supremacy is no big deal. And so this thing is put out in the open, and if Republicans want to have this conversation, we can have this conversation. I don't think it's going to go away, Tim.
Oh, I knew you would be back.
Right, it's a conversation we should have been having for a long time. I mean, here's the thing. If you've got white women who are refusing to go to Soul Cycle tonight, you're done. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, there is a tipping point that I think we are beginning to reach as a country, where good folks are beginning to recognize that the right is disproportionately about white nationalism, that MAGA, that Make America Great Again, is about taking us back to an era of overt white supremacy. And I think there are a lot of white folks, decent folks, who are not down for that. And so I'm happy that we're having this conversation. I'm sad that it takes tragedy to have it, but I think it's good that we're having the conversation about race and about white nationalism and about what kind of country we want to be. Are we going to move forward, or are we going to move backward? That's the question.
And Tim, in fact, was very interesting. I go back to when Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House. White voters in the 1998 midterm voted against the Republican Party. They held on to power, but the exit polling showed they did not like Newt Gingrich's attack on people of color. George W. Bush, then governor of Texas, he runs as a compassionate conservative. Those suburban white voters said, we like George W. Bush, we like his approach. Newt Gingrich was forced out as Speaker of the House because of that. And so we have the data to show that when white suburban voters, when it gets to a point where they're so uncomfortable with open racism and constant attacks on people of color, they reflects on them. And so I'm not saying it's guaranteed that they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. What I am saying that but this thing is continually being in the ether, it is going to be a problem, because it's going to be a line in the sand, like with Stephen Ross. The Miami Dolphins owner is not going to just get off scot-free. People are going to say, you got to pick. Either you're going to support and financially support the racists, or you're going to say, I'm not.
Right. Well, this is the key, and this is why Democrats have got to step up and challenge this and make this election about the existential threat that Trumpism poses to the values that they claim they believe in. Because here's the thing. You know, I've been white for a really long time, man, half a century. And in that half century, one of the things I've learned about my people is that we desperately don't want to be thought of as racist. So let's play with that. Let's use that. The reality is Democrats ought to be saying Trumpism is fundamentally an existential threat to the notion of pluralistic, multicultural democracy. And so if you don't want to be tarred by that, if you don't want to be connected to that, you have to step up in this moment. Whether you are progressive, moderate, or a reasonable conservative, it is time to stand for what you say you believe in. And I think if the Democrats don't shy away from that, then they have a winning message. My concern is that they're going to be so afraid of white backlash that they are not willing to wade into those waters. And I'm telling you, unless they do that, they are not going to be able to prevail.
CJ, you've got, of course, Ohio Republican Party leader Jane Timken calling on Ohio Rep
Candace Keller to resign because of her comments after the shooting in Dayton. She, of course, went on Facebook, blamed the shooting on homosexual marriage, drag queen advocates, and recreational marijuana. You got Republicans who are saying, look, okay, we can't keep taking these hits. We can't keep having folks making racist comments, making anti-gay comments, and representing the party. Your thoughts on the call for her to resign?
Oh, she absolutely should resign. The president has made, from a global perspective, decriminalization of homosexuals, and I think she should. She is not in line with what he's proposed and what he has defended against the LGBTQ community.
I'm sorry, what has Trump defended?
What he has defended is putting out a national piece about decriminalization of LGBTQ. And you have a lot of countries who accept our tax dollars on humanitarian, crisis that still believe in criminalization of homosexuality. And
well,
that
hold on.
has
I'm
been
sorry,
something.
Mustafa.
What?
Mustafa, am I living in an alternate world from CJ? Donald Trump won't even send. One more second. Donald Trump won't even send out a statement during Pride Month.
Right. It doesn't make a difference whether he sent out a statement, Roland. What he actually did do was put a policy in place, and if you have an issue with it, why don't you call the ambassador from Germany who's heading up that piece of policy?
Mustafa and Tim. Mustafa first, then Tim. Your reaction.
You know, with all due respect to the other panelists, Donald Trump has not done anything to help to better protect, to give greater access to any of those that he considers less than. And that happens to be the LGBTQ community, that happens to be the African American community, the Latino community, the Native American community, even Asian and Pacific Islanders. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. What actually seems like is happening at the White House is an old replay of Birth of a Nation, where they actually were able to dehumanize folks so that they could then utilize that to garner support for their antiquated policies and actions. So we need to be real clear about what's happening and whom this individual is based upon his actions and the things that he's been doing. So if he wants to have policy that is actually protective of communities, then he should actually move forward on that and have those folks in the Senate actually pass that. But until that happens, you know, we're having this conversation, this theoretical conversation of whom we would want the president to be. He has not shown us that. Just like that old adage says that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. His actions have shown us exactly who he is. Now, I believe that he could have, a moment like he's walking down the road to Jericho, and maybe, the Lord will come down and actually change who he is. But so far, that has not happened.
Oh, and you tell me what he's doing on opiate crisis is not doing the First Step Act, is not what he's done.
He's doing nothing on opioids.
Yes, he has.
Okay. Oh my God. Tim Wise. This man can't even sit. Tim, he's doing nothing on opioids, and LGBT folks are not happy with Donald Trump. Tim Wise, go ahead.
That's the left.
This is a guy who wants trans folk out of the military because they're too expensive to do gender reassignment or confirmation surgery. This is somebody who has no problem condemning other countries for their homophobia and heterosexism. But I dare Donald Trump, and I dare any Trump supporter to actually pressure him to support legislation to protect LGBTQ folks from discrimination in the workforce. He won't do it because he is pandering to evangelical white Christians who believe that they deserve carve-outs so that they don't actually have to protect equal rights. They believe they have the right to discriminate against LGBTQ folk, and Donald Trump defends them on that. If you were going to defend the right to discriminate against LGBTQ folk in the name of God, then you are not a friend to the LGBTQ community, and that is a joke. It is a pathetic joke, and it's not even worth our conversation. Let me do one more thing, though. I want to go back to what CJ said before I was on the air. She was talking about Antifa and the Dayton shooting. Let me be very clear. Not only is there no evidence of this person's larger politic, but even if he were on the left politically, 6 out of the 9 people that he killed were black. The idea that he did this in the name of the left or anti-racism, there is no political motivation for this shooting. Unlike the El Paso shooter who parroted the rhetoric of Donald Trump, it is disgusting to act as if these two shootings are even remotely the same. They are morally the same, but they are not politically the same, and only a paid-for shill would act as if they were. It is absolutely reprehensible.
And let me tell you, I'm not a paid-for shill, and two, I am a black Christian conservative, and let me tell you one thing. When you're talking about extra rights for LGBT community and adding it into the 1964 Civil Rights Act where my community, no.
It's not extra. It's the same.
No, it's
right.
not. No, it's not.
It's the right not to be discriminated.
No, they can have a separate bill, which they did have introduced, but no, there should not be anything that moves and add anything into the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Have your own legislation.
Okay, CJ, one second. Hold on 1 second. First of all, CJ, let me educate you.
I don't need you to educate me.
CJ,
that's the bill that the Democratic House passed.
CJ, listen,
amending
CJ,
the 1964
CJ,
Civil Rights
CJ,
Act supported by the
listen.
NAACP.
CJ, will you listen?
I'm listening.
You cannot add to a bill that's already been passed.
They voted legislation to amend it.
No, here's what actually happens, CJ. CJ, listen. Here's what happens. You have a 64 Civil Rights Act. Let me help you to understand something.
I don't need help,
When you look at, for instance, no, actually you do. For instance, the American with Disabilities Act was a separate law. It was actually based upon a provision of the 64 Civil Rights Act. Title IX was a separate law.
That's not what Nancy Pelosi passed out of the House.
No, when you say adding to the bill, you're not adding to the bill. What you're dealing with here is the reality of separate legislation.
It was not separate legislation that was passed by Nancy Pelosi.
The fact of the matter is this, CJ.
That's why it was dead on arrival in the Senate.
The fact of the matter is this, Mustafa. And the fact of the matter, first of all, everything is dead on arrival in the Senate. Your boy Mitch McConnell won't even deal with election reform. He won't even deal with Russia. He won't even deal with national security. He won't even advance any of those things. All he cares about are conservative federal judges. That is a fact.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, you've heard me talk a lot about marijuanastock.org. Why? Because I want to keep you informed of investment opportunities that make sense. We've all watched the growth of the cannabis industry. A recent report by New Frontier Data estimates the global cannabis market at more than $340 billion. We know that marijuana legalization is sweeping the country state by state. We also know that marijuana has a good cousin, the hemp plant, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all of the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the United States and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. Folks, they need land to grow all of the plants. This is not rocket science. It's real simple. It's an incredible investment opportunity, and that's where our friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. My friends at 420 Real Estate decided to do something special for the Roland Martin Unfiltered fan base. Originally, the minimum investment level was $500. Right now, you can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, anywhere from $200 up to $10,000. Let me recap. This is a $340 billion industry that is still growing. And you can participate with as little as $200. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Essence Atkins, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, my name is Brescia Webb, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Well, I like a nice filter usually, but we can be unfiltered.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan, and if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Cheryl Lee Ralph, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, could it be any other way? Really? It's Roland Martin.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Essence Atkins, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, my name is Brescia Webb, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Well, I like a nice filter usually, but we can be unfiltered.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan, and if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Cheryl Lee Ralph, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, could it be any other way? Really? It's Roland Martin.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.